Law and Order, Better Call Saul, That One Time I Was With Your Parents in Divorce Court. It's top 10 unsettling trials in history. Yeah, divorce court's sad. We don't want to be there. Number 10, the Al Capone trial. The biggest and baddest boss Chicago ever saw. Al Capone, the godfather of organized Italian-American crime. During his days as a bootlegger, he rose to fame as a tough and wealthy boss of the outfit. Capone was untouchable, and seemed every time they tried to bust him, well, they can never link any of his violent crimes back to him. In attempts to prosecute Mr. Capone, the FBI would get its start, or its rise to fame, and began doing what the FBI does best. That stuff. Eventually, Capone would be brought up on some charges, but more importantly, he would be brought to trial for federal tax evasion, which no lawyer could get him out of. Like compared to his other crimes that were definitely more heinous than tax evasion, but that's the story. He would spend the next few years on Alcatraz Island where his health deteriorated immensely from brothel-related illnesses. So just remember folks, it was tax evasion that got Capone. If they can get him, they can get you. Number 9, the Rosenburg Trial. Ethel and Julius Rosenburg. Names I don't expect you to know. They were a couple who back in the 1940s and 50s, they were suspected of being communist spies and leaking top secret atomic research to the Soviet Union, thus fast-tracking their research and allowing the Soviet Union to have nuclear capabilities much faster than previously predicted. The truth is, well, that was the truth, which is crazy. And the trial was not kind to either Ethel or Julius, as they were both found guilty and sentenced to manual de-lifing via electric chair. Years after the trial, some more evidence was found, and while still a conspirator, it showed that Ethel wasn't as guilty as Julius, and thus maybe could have received a lighter sentence. Maybe not the electric chair, just saying. Maybe we don't do that one anymore. You seen The Green Mile? The Sponge, man. I'll never forget that. The Sponge. Anyway. Number 8, Charles Manson. The 1960s were a fun time, or so at least I'm told. Flower power, the Beatles, and there was a war in Vietnam or something. I don't know. What's that all about? However, something, or rather someone who was just pure, weird, creepy, hippie energy is Charles Manson, the cult leader of the Manson family, who unalived at least 9 people, possibly more, and honestly should just be charged for being so gosh darn weird. The guy's strange, he's a lot of this going on with him, it's really weird. During the trial, he had a red X on his forehead and claimed, "I have X'd myself from your world." Whatever that means. He would spend the rest of his life in prison, where he would write a book that sounded like a crazy person wrote it. And pulling up images of this guy, well, he's just kind of creepy. Look at him, he's just weird. It's just, ugh, dude, stop. Stop, dude. Number 7, Paul Bernardo. If you're not from the Toronto area, I wouldn't expect you to know this one, but it was the trial of the century. At least in Canada, it was. Paul Bernardo and his wife, Carla Homolka, committed 3 de-lifings back in the late 80s and early 90s, including Carla's own sister. It's a messed up story, folks. Seriously, Google it. However, the plot twist or climax of the story is during the trial. Paul was in big trouble, no doubt, but Carla took a plea deal to lighten her sentencing. The trouble is, after she got off with basically nothing compared to him, some more evidence was found, which specifically it was videotaped, showing that she was much more involved than previously thought. Paul to this day is still in prison, and Carla, well, she walks free, which is kind of messed up. Nope, don't like that. No. Number 6, Nuremberg Trials. WW2. It was a big one. Ask your grandpa, he'll tell you. And after Germany surrendered to literally everyone, well, it was time to put some very bad boys in the timeout corner. A lot of German top dogs that didn't escape to South America were put on trial from anything from war crimes to the Germans' final solution. Some may argue that wars are not one-sided, and both sides absolutely committed atrocities. You'd be right. The Allies had their fair share of naughty moments during the war, and yes, we won, so history is written by the victors, but the Allies didn't start the war, and well, if you saw what a lot of the cities looked like after World War II, then you'd understand. But hey, at least we tried to give justice to those who thought they'd never see it. We tried, we did something. Number 5, Aileen Wuornos. A little female crazy action for you, because girls can be crazy too. To be fair, it's usually crazy men, but this is what makes life interesting. Sometimes you get a different one in there. This is pretty cool. Not cool, it's weird. Like a lot of history's truly disturbed people, Aileen had a rough upbringing, which found her on the streets of Florida doing as the ladies of the night do. Now, I'm not here to judge that. In my opinion, how can something you give away for free be a crime when you charge for it? I say no. But That's just me. That's not the main issue here, however. The issue is during the early 90s, Aileen unalived 7 of her clients and robbed them. She eventually found herself on capital punishment lane and would perish there. Her last words were, "I'm sailing the rock and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus." That's a totally normal thing to say. I don't know what that means. Also, a lot of these were in the 90s. I don't know what's going on. It's weird. Number 4, O.J. Simpson. Now the actual trial of the century. I mean, this is the big bad one. This is the one where the glove didn't fit. O.J. Simpson, football star turned actor turned criminal, or at least so we think. He was the prime suspect of the brutal expiring of his ex-wife Nicole and Ron Goldman. It was the trial of the century. Millions watched the verdict come down. Not guilty. Now, sure, he may have had a few more crimes later in life, like a high-speed police chase, but that doesn't mean he was guilty. Come on! And even writing a book called I Didn't Do It, but if I did, in regarding what happened to Nicole and Ron, then this is how it would be done. He actually wrote a book like that, so I don't know if an editor can pull that up. He actually wrote a book said, I didn't do it, but if I did... Anyway, next point. Number 3, Jeffery Dahmer. Look, a lot of these were in around the same time period. What the heck was going on during the early 90s? What were you guys doing? What was going on? Anyway, here's a truly unsettling trial. A modern monster, if you will. The Milwaukee Cannibal. As an example, police found one of his victims in a craze after escaping his apartment with no clothes. Police, thinking this was normal, brought him back to the apartment where Dahmer convinced police it was a lover's spat. Okay, after enough psychological evaluations to make your head spin, he was convicted of 15 life sentences. The dude was eating people, it was weird. Which still doesn't feel like enough. Dahmer himself met his end in prison after discussing what was on the menu that night with a fellow inmate. They didn't like that, he was boasting, and they got him. They got him. Number 2, the Clinton trial. More 90s stuff. Man, it feels like I missed out on a big decade there. What was going on? I feel like I missed some. Okay, so the President of the United States, an important guy, a leader, a fighter, a man who believes in truth and justice, and is surprisingly good at playing the saxophone. Seriously, look up Clinton. He's really good. It's kind of weird. Well, it seems during the late 90s, his saxophone wasn't the only thing he had his mouth wrapped around, as the president was caught in a relationship with another woman besides Hillary. Oh, scandal. This led to his impeachment trial, which is kind of a big deal because that can lead you to being removed from office. And that's not what you want as a president. You want to be reelected. Trust me, I know. I'm a politician. Of course, that's the simple answer. There's tons of red tape and paperwork that has to be done first for that to happen, but it's the first step. His trial, however, would end in an acquittal. However, that doesn't change the public image or opinion of the man. And that is what it is. He's a saxophone playing guy, and he's out late at night without Hillary. That's, Hillary, I'll go out if I want. You can't stop me. I did not have sexual relations with that lady. Number 1, John Hinckley Jr. This is one I had to learn about myself, so here we go. Having a crush can be tough. Imagine the lengths you'd go to impress your crush. For me, it was always lifting extra chairs in class so the girls thought I was extra strong. The men out there will agree that you can definitely lift more chairs if the girls are watching, right, Chris? Yeah, exactly. Well, take John Hinckley Jr. for example, who attempted to assassinate President Reagan to impress Jodie Foster. No, that's not a fever dream, that's actually why he did it. Whom he had also been stalking as well, just because. What else do you do? In his attempt, he had injured 3 people, including the president himself. Luckily, the president survived. Hinckley was acquitted because of insanity during his trial. That doesn't always work, folks, but he did spend many years at St. Elizabeth's and is set to be released this June. He's going to be released this June because now he's mentally stable. Isn't that swell? Dude, I'm like reading through it and it's like, he'll be released this June. He'll be released when? That's going to wrap it up for me today, guys. I've been your host, Big Ched. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe here at Bumblebee. And if you too want to go to an insane asylum with me, then check out my socials somewhere down below. Come hang out with me. I'll make you laugh. I bet you. I bet you any money. Yeah. Alright, guys. I'll see you soon. I love you so much. Stay tuned, my little honeybees. Bye. Bye.